Meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Alderman Catalano.
Here.
Alderman Jacob.
Here.
Alderman Messina.
Here.
Alderman Sorrentino.
Here.
Alderman Kromarski. Alderman E. Wesley. Here. Alderman R. Wesley.
Here.
Alderman Woods.
Here.
Mayor Police.
Here. Declare a quorum present. Please stand. Join the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I need a motion to approve the city council minutes of August 2nd.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes, all yes. Do any citizens wish to be heard on matters not listed on the agenda? Okay, I do have two written communiques. First one, dear Mayor, Police, and Aldermen of Wooddale, thank you for all your efforts in stopping the train horn when it enters Wooddale. Anything that cuts down on noise pollution is greatly appreciated. Janet Germanier. Next, same to Mayor and Council, Frank Montino. Just a note to say thank you for ending the train whistles on Wooddale Road and Irving Park Road. The quiet is just great. Again, thanks to you and all the others that brought this about. Also want to say thanks to the aldermen in the ward, Peter Jacob and Randy Messina, for providing waste containers on Division Street and 17. Posted sign warning to pick up dog waste. Okay. Keep up the good work, guys. Frank Montino.
What alderman were there?
I'm trying to build a legacy.
Was that Peter Jacob and
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Trash can legacy.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure.
All right. Next, Mayor's Report Payroll Proclamation. Whereas the American Payroll Association and its more than 20,000 members have launched a nationwide public awareness campaign that pays tribute to the more than 150 people who work in the United States and the payroll professionals who support the American system by paying wages, reporting worker earnings, and withholding federal employment taxes. And whereas payroll professionals in Wooddale, Illinois, play a key role in maintaining the economic health of Wooddale, carrying out such diverse tasks as paying into the unemployment insurance system, providing information for child support enforcement, and carrying out tax withholding, reporting, and depositing. And whereas payroll departments collectively spend more than $2.2 trillion annually complying with myriad federal and state wage and tax laws, and whereas payroll professionals play an increasingly important role ensuring the economic security of American families by helping to identify non-custodial parents and making sure they comply with their child support mandates, and whereas payroll professionals have become increasingly proactive in educating both the business community and the public at large about the payroll tax withholding systems. And whereas payroll professionals meet regularly with federal and state officials to discuss both improving compliance with government procedures and how compliance can be achieved at less cost to both government and businesses. And whereas the week in which Labor Day falls has been proclaimed National Payroll Week, I hereby give additional support to the efforts of the people who work in Wooddale, Illinois, and the payroll profession by proclaiming the first full week of September Payroll Week for the city of Wooddale. Now therefore, I Annunziata Police recognize September 2nd through September 8th as National Payroll Week in Wooddale. Next, presentation of awards. Go ahead. Did you want to? Okay. So we had our first Beautify Wooddale Curb Appeal Contest. Was held from May 1st to July 1st and promoted online through social media, email, and city website, community newsletter. One winner per city ward would receive a prize of $500. Participants were required to submit before and after photos of their front yard that showed noticeable improvements along with their name and address. The Streetscape and Economic Enhancement Committee chose the winners at its July meeting. And this evening we have some of the winners, I believe. We'll start with Ward 2, Erica Eska. Is she here? Okay, well,
Nice.
Grant will, okay. Ward 3, Sally Franz.
Sally.
Congrats, Sally.
It's my brother. You guys should. We should. My hands. Congratulations. I want my naming.
Thank you.
Might come in too.
Is it a green thumb I'm looking at?
Thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for beautifying Wooddale. And last, we have Patricia Kochia. Yes,
Nice.
from Ward 4.
Nice job.
Yeah, you can bring up the helpers, that was probably the labor pool.
She won't come up.
Foreman.
Scarlett, you want to come? Okay, Scarlett.
All right.
I'm the boss.
With the phone.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Seriously. I should have just submitted it, man.
And thank you to all those who participated. Thank you for beautifying Wooddale. And in case you guys were wondering, there was no entry from Ward 1,
Oh, man.
so.
What Alderman Air Ward 1?
Yes,
Throw us under the bus.
What's that other guy's name?
Throw us under the bus.
Just saying.
All right. Next, skunk grant program update. Who's going to take this one? Chief? Okay.
So if you remember, in the spring, we came to you at the request of the elected officials to start a skunk program, a skunk grant program that would allow the residents to get reduced, pay $25 and get the services of a professional trapper to come out and trap skunks at their residence. And what we had said is, once we reached about the $2,000 threshold, we'd come back to council, give you an update, and then decide if you want to stop the program in this current fiscal year or expend some further money on it and just keep it going. Or I guess the third option would be stop it now and then restart it up next fiscal year. So this is as of a couple weeks ago, but at that point they had serviced 19 different addresses. They captured 12 skunks. In addition, they had captured 7 opossums, 2 raccoons, and 2 squirrels. And there's 9 addresses that they had no captures, and the average number of visits at each address is 4. So we're just looking for direction from council where we want to go through the rest of this fiscal year.
And Chief, just so people understand, that was a cost of $25 to the resident, and the city was picking up the balance.
That's correct.
And was that per skunk? Because, just for people who are listening and watching.
Yeah, so essentially it was per address for a period that the wildlife company determined they should stay out there and continue to keep trapping. If they were getting nothing, or if they caught one, they would rebait and try to attempt to retap. So some locations might have been a couple weeks, some might have been a week, just depending on the results out there. But it was $25 total to the resident.
Okay. Alderman Eugene Wesley, you were first.
Yeah, Mayor, I would keep this program going. It seems like it's working out, so.
Did
That would
you
be
want to
my-
put a
that would
dollar
be a
amount on
motion.
that? Another 2,000? Was
Another
2,000 the first
Yeah, another-
first time, Chief?
I'll second that.
That's correct.
Another $2,000.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I'll second that.
Alderman
Tony.
Catalano. Any other questions on this?
I'm gonna shave your name to get skunk.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Messina.
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino.
Yes.
Alderman Alderman E. Wesley,
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley,
Yes.
Alderman Woods,
Yes.
And that passes. Next, we do have one mayor appointment for police and fire commissioners. Appointment of Sabrina Feinberg for the unexpired term of Sal Lombardi, commencing on August 16, 2018, and expiring on April 30th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Catalano,
Yes. Yes.
Alderman Jacob,
Yes.
Alderman Messina,
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino,
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley,
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley,
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
And that passes. Next, that concludes my report. Mr. Murmas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 3 reports. First report, I'd like to congratulate a longtime police department employee, Judy Ivy, on her recent retirement. She has been serving the city of Wooddale for 24 years, and I'm sure Greg and the whole police department and everybody will miss her, and we wish her the best of luck. Second report, the Ward 2 and 3 stormwater project that we've been discussing for quite some time now, staff and Robinson Engineering did meet with the representatives from Georgetown Homeowners Association, and we did have a very positive meeting. They are definitely willing partners with the city on this project and look forward to working with us. Robinson will be coming back out with a project update and probably seeking some direction from the committee on September 27th. That's Thursday night, September 27th, for the Public Works Committee. So that is going well and moving on a good timeline. Last item, Irving Park Road Bridge construction. IDOT is doing some repair work on the Irving Park Road Bridge over the creek near the treatment plant. The road will not be closed, but it will be reduced to 1 lane in each direction during the repairs. The work would begin sometime after Labor Day and is expected to be completed sometime around Halloween. We will be posting updates on our social media and our construction updates page, and there will be some further details on this once we get them from IDOT in a few weeks. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to consent agenda. We have 8 items on the consent agenda, if no objections.
I make the
Alderman
motion
Woods?
to approve.
Alderman Woods, yeah.
I'll make a motion to remove 7 from the,
Okay.
Number 1.
Remove number 1?
Mhm.
Okay. And number 7. Any other ones? So we'll entertain a motion to approve 6 items. Do I have a motion?
I make that motion.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Catalano,
Abstain.
pardon me?
Abstain.
Okay. Alderman Jacob,
Yes.
Alderman Messina,
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino,
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley,
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley,
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, I need a motion to approve the items on the agenda. Item number 2, resolution approving an amended mutual aid agreement for the Northern Illinois Police Alarm System. Item number 3, approval of cost share with the Station Walk Association for a fence adjacent to the RTA lot in an amount not to exceed $6,246.50. Item number 4, resolution seeking approval of purchase of Prairie Light decorations from ChristmasDesign.com LLC in an amount not to exceed $15,449.60. Item number 5, resolution seeking approval of purchase of root cutter and nozzles from Standard Equipment in an amount not to exceed $15,910. Item number 6, a resolution seeking to approve purchase of the Vancouver Ligman bollards in a not to exceed amount of $10,850. Item number 8, an ordinance amending the municipal code of the city of Wooddale to provide for the regulation of application for small wireless cells. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Roll call, please.
No questions?
Consent agenda, that's where we had to pull them off.
Fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Messina.
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino.
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
Okay, and that passes. Item number 1 here. All right, under committee chairman reports, planning and zoning, Alderman Woods, this is that one item, number 7, I would imagine, since this was not discussed at committee, would go under this committee.
Yeah, I have
Go
one,
ahead.
I have one surprise report, Mayor. Resolution authorizing the execution of the city of Wooddale, or resolution authorizing the execution of the city of Wooddale Road and Commercial Road redevelopment agreement. That is my motion.
Second.
We have a motion. I have a second. Randy was a second. All right, next. Questions? Alderman Eugene Wesley, go ahead.
Mayor, why wasn't this in committee to discuss?
Mr. Murmas.
I think for scheduling purposes and discussions we've already had with the council, that it was probably appropriate just to bring it to the city council meeting.
Go ahead, follow up. Alderman Roy Wesley, go ahead.
The developer's here, correct?
Mr. Murmas.
Yes, correct. Brad Wilson had a brief presentation, and then the
Oh.
developer was here to answer any questions.
So are
Okay.
we having a presentation on this?
We are.
All right, Mr.
Are we
Wilson.
going forward?
Yes, planning and zoning. Go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just real quick before we get going, as Alderman Wesley had mentioned, we do have the developer here. So to my right, we have Mr. Paul DeCroy from Intercontinental Development. And so some of the slides are going to bounce back and forth, so I'll be speaking for a little bit, and then Mr. DeCroy will be speaking for a little bit.
Could we have the spelling on that for the clerk? Oh, you got it? Okay, no problem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a little bit of history on the project itself, which, as hopefully you know, is going to be located on the SBT Bank site and the former 7-Eleven site, the southeast corner of Wooddale and Commercial. A bit of a brief history. Summer and fall of 2017, staff met with the developer. Early fall 2017, SB Freeman began exploring the feasibility of a TIF district through that area. January 18th, there was a presentation executive session. May 17th, there was approval of the TIF district by the council. August, review and approve full development agreement, which is tonight. And then the TIF benefit, it's referenced in the RDA that's before you this evening, but the actual TIF benefit, all the ins and the outs and the trigger points in it will actually be coming to a future council meeting along with the purchase and sale agreement of the property. So this is the first of a number of different agreements that will be coming before you along the way of this process. Quick, the summary. Again, phase 1 is the 2 locations, the SBT Bank site and the 7-Eleven site, and then there'll be a little portion of the Front Street parking lot that extends to the west there between the former 7-Eleven site and Front Street itself before you get to the tracks. It'll be approximately 154 dwelling units, a minimum of 1,500 square feet of commercial space, and that will be located in the former 7-Eleven property the commercial space will be. And then there's always potential for future phases, but that would be, again, at a future time and at a slightly different location, somewhere, potentially within the TIF district itself again as well. With that, I'll turn over to Mr. DeCroy for a little history.
Thank you, Brad. I don't know, is that good? Yeah. So first, I want to say my name's Paul DeCrife. I'm with Intercontinental Real Estate and Development Corporation of Oak Brook, or in Oak Brook. Tonight I have an associate, one of our architects, Seth Holman here. Seth has been instrumental in developing the plans and style of our prototype. Tonight, because of timing, Mr. Aristotle Halikias and Ms. Patricia Halikias could not be in attendance. They have, as you can see, many different entities and businesses, one of which is overseas, and they just really got back. We did not want to push this to another meeting where they could attend, but I'm confident they'll be here for follow-up meetings. And I can tell you that on behalf of them and everybody at Intercontinental, we are immensely excited. Me personally, I've been tracking this site or this area since 2013. And I looked at sites in and around the train station. You know, everybody calls it the TOD, Transit-Oriented Developments. And I had looked at those sites or sites around here for a very long time. At that time, I discovered that with the train crossing, pending train crossing, reconstruction, and a couple other things that we just didn't see here yet in Wooddale, it wasn't the right time. We revisited this in fall of 2016, and really we were looking at the Title Max site and trying to do an assemblage there, and quickly determined that that might not be feasible to get all those owners together. And there was just something always still little, you know, that was missing. And then we approached Mr. Cage and Mr. Murmis, as well as Mr. Williams, about this site and what would be possible. And along with Mr. Bond, we can say that it's been a pleasure so far to work with everybody on staff. They've been very helpful in helping launch this project, which we believe will be a great catalyst to this area. We think many things will come. It doesn't come without risk, and we all have risk per this, you know, agreement. So, as proposed. So, with that, I wanted to give you a quick history. We're about a 50-year-old development company with roots in mom-and-pop retail on the construction side. Started really in Canada as American Construction, and then as you can see going forward, shortly, roughly about 20 years after that, the family that owns Intercontinental purchased Republic Bank of Chicago. So Republic Bank of Chicago is approximately a $2 billion institution. Keep going, they've done some development along the way in the early 90s. Right around 2012, they formed a REIT overseas in the Eurozone, and that entity is roughly around a $1 billion entity as well. So there's very real horsepower behind Intercontinental. We're not just a small merchant builder and or an entity that's going away. It's into its second generation, and again, we're very excited. Next slide. This is just really a verbalization of what I've been discussing here. So you can see that we have different things. One of the things I like to point out too is the fourth item down. The family had built a world-class golf course, and in the 2000s, early 2000s, they created a 501c3 and donated that golf course into that to serve veterans, and they do a tremendous amount of work in that area. I think for next slide. So what I wanted to do is give you a sense of projects, pretty pictures, those kinds of things. So I've just taken a small sample. I think in previous meetings, we've given you a little bit more breadth of what we're capable of doing, and I just want to take a smaller sample for this evening. One of the projects that we co-developed in downtown Chicago is the Fordham. It's a 50-story luxury condo development. Went very well. We finished that before the recession, so that was a good thing. Another one was a luxury home development in Tinley Park, which went very, very well up until the recession. And we're, like a lot of developers with single-family homes, we're working our way through that, but by all accounts, a very successful development. Our last one is, some may or may not know, we're developers of the Hollywood Casino Amphitheater, which is what it was called now. It used to be called the World. And we're pretty proud of that one. It worked out really well. It's probably one of the only assets that the family's ever really sold. It's just one of those, you know, ridiculous offers that came in. The family still owns all the land around that entity, so they hold on to things forever. One thing not pointed out in here that I wanted to bring up is this one in particular here, the Tinley Park, was a, you know, public-private type development.
Mr. Murmas?
Yeah, I saw an Aerosmith concert there. It was really good.
It was really
good venue.
I went and saw Paul McCartney. I'll have to tell you that story later. My daughter decided not to take the tickets, but we went. At any rate, one slide not on there, one sample I just wanted to point out. We worked with the Village of Olympia Fields and did a master plan community, multifamily, single family, and then we built for the town in that project 500 space Metra commuter parking lot for the electric line and a station. So, and that was, you know, very successful project for both entities. I think that's it.
Okay. Mr. Wilson, you got something else? Otherwise, Mr. All right, go ahead.
A few more, yeah. So kind of the nuts and bolts, you know, the redevelopment agreement tonight, as you can see upon approval, that would then lead to the next phase of this, which would be a combination of the attorneys working on the purchase and sale agreement of the land, of the parcels, which again would be brought to a future council meeting. There's also in there up to a 90-day review period, plan submission, review comments, you know, some of the engineering stuff. Then there's another 60-day period, final review, permitting period. Kind of baked and nestled all in there is required zoning, planning improvements, approvals, things of that nature. Also stormwater, public utilities, a lot of that stuff will be worked into that. Another 5 to 6 months to pull permits and begin construction. I think that's the summation of the previous few bullets. And then approximately 18 months estimated final completion for the project itself. Real quick on the TIF benefit, as it is referenced in there, again, this would come to a future council meeting for final approval. Total ask at this point is $4.25 million from the developer, as it's specified in the RDA. And then the payout would be based upon actual costs in different silos. Some of those silos components would be the land, public utilities, stormwater, and other TIF eligible expenses, permitting, engineering costs, legal fees, things of that nature, depending on what the actual costs come back at. So the question always is, you know, what's the EAV growth going to be over there? Currently, all the parcels they're looking to build on are owned by the city, so the property taxes generated by them right now is 0. So it's pretty, math's pretty easy. The developer estimated a growth estimate of $7.8 million. SB Friedman took a look at it, estimated a growth factor of $10.4 million on the properties. So there is some definite growth in EAV there, and especially if you go back a slide, say 4.25 million, clearly both of those estimates exceed that amount, so we feel comfortable that we're going to be sufficiently covered relative to, you know, the bond issue would have to do for the TIF bonds to cover that. Just again, seen the slide in different iterations. The larger picture on the left is the SBT site. The smaller one is the 7-Eleven site. In the SBT property, the upper right-hand building leaves a 3-story building. Yep. The lower, and then also the lower left is 3-story, lower right is 4-story, upper left is 2-story, yep. And then the 7-Eleven site is 2-story with the commercial space on the ground floor.
So if you want to go back to that slide real quick, we're roughly doing in the top right-hand corner of the left slide, we're doing roughly 33 units in that building. And as you go around to the left, that'll be 22. To the bottom, D, I can make that out. I think everybody can make that out. That'll be 33. And then back on Wooddale, that'll be 44. So we brought the buildings up onto, Wooddale, and you'll notice that the kind of the rendering and the colorization and the tones and the materials that we used, we actually borrowed right from this building to create a little transition. So some of the color palette choices that we have currently, that's what we've used. All that's just a color. We can always have a discussion about those kinds of things as we get through this. The top right slide is a 22 unit with a small commercial on the front. We wanted to try to take advantage of that exposure right there and see if we can make that all work. We do believe that it would be highly desirable. We think that adding this density as we proposed it really does help to ignite the downtown or this area. So this is our view of the two sites as you see it from really Irving Park Road heading north on Wooddale. You see the two-story building immediately, and then you flow down. Go to the next slide. This is more of a street view, and this is what we're proposing in terms of the units themselves. We have committed to, and we think this works. In terms of finish on the inside, that's what you don't see in any of these pictures. We've envisioned and have come to agreements with village staff that they're going to be a luxury look and feel. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. 9-foot ceilings, so full volume, in-unit washer dryers, open concept kitchens, and then some walk-in closets. They'll be inside of those units. These are meant for people looking for that luxury, step up.
Then again, I know I've said it a few times tonight, but the redevelopment agreement tonight, the two items at future meetings, and then just again, like I said, the developer's estimate along with SB Freeman's estimates, both appear to be sufficient to cover the TIF benefit that's being requested. So there's a pretty decent level of confidence there with a couple of independent opinions on that. And that actually is what we have. Pending any
Mr. Bond
questions.
wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, just so it's clear, and I think, Brad, that last slide sort of gave us a snapshot of where we're at. What you've got before you is the redevelopment agreement. It's kind of the first step to put the discussions that you've heard relative to this into an agreement. I would, if it's the mover and the second agrees, to have it approved, subject to attorney review and approval, ultimately when it gets approved. But this is the first part of it. It has to do generally with the development, and speaks to the dollars, the land conveyance, and so forth. The next one will be the purchase and sale agreement. That will have the meat, if you will, of the conveyance of the property of the SBT Bank, the former 7-Eleven. And then the TIF benefit agreement will basically go through the phases and the bench marks that need to be achieved in order for those benefits to be paid out. So from the city's perspective, the city's always going to will have a claim on the property that's the component of that, and then also the TIF benefits will be issued in accordance with meeting those benchmarks. If the benchmarks aren't met, the TIF monies aren't paid out. So it's in both the developer and the city's best interest to be able to satisfy that. That gives everybody motivation to go forward. And I have had the opportunity to meet with Mr. DeCreve. We've gotten through, I think, a lot of the details, worked through. There's still a couple left to be done. TIF Council will also have a review. They've got a copy of the agreement as well. So that's why I'd say subject to final attorney review and approval. But this gets you to be able to get to the sort of the details of the development itself. Conceptually, you saw what it was, what they're intending to do with the two 3-story, 3- and 4-story buildings for the density limit. So just want to let you know what you've got before you is not the whole deal. This is just this redevelopment component of that, referencing other parts of it, but that's all you've got before you this evening.
So the motioner will amend the
Okay.
motion to include subject to attorney's final approval.
And Randy, you were the second, do you agree?
I didn't know motion was made, yeah, I'll be the seconder, sure. I
Who
agree.
made the second?
You second.
Randy,
Right.
Randy made
You
it.
did.
Yeah, I agree to it.
Okay. All right, we have a motion, a second now. Questions? Alderman Messina, go ahead.
So I'm looking at some of the dates.
Okay.
I thought we had kind of talked about breaking ground this year. Is that not an option?
Who's going to answer, Mr. DeCree?
Yeah, I can
Go
go
ahead.
into it, and then, if there's technical aspects that you want to clarify, but I don't think the approval process would allow us to break ground this year. We have several other documents that need to get approved, bonds would have to get induced, so forth and so on. We truly want to go as fast as the process will allow. We look at this market, and we see a tremendous opportunity, and what we don't want to do is see the window close.
Good. Follow up, Alderman
I
Messina.
should have been clearer, sorry. The demolition of that site, will that happen this year?
Mr. DeCree?
I don't think so, but I have done this before, and there's a technical way we can possibly do that. And it means a little bit more work for everyone, and maybe a little bit more cost, but it could be a potential. And we'd be happy to talk to staff about that, if that's the direction everybody want to
If
go.
I understood that correctly, it was going to take another 60 days or so, at least, maybe 90, to go through the rest of the process. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So that'll put us almost into November.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if we get there,
Go ahead.
taking the building down in the wintertime, is possible. It's not, you don't want to be pouring foundations or anything like that.
Right. Alderman Eugene Wesley, go ahead.
I just have two questions, if you don't mind. Over by the 7-Eleven property, are you doing both of these projects all at the same time?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes? So in the 7-Eleven property, how many commercial units will be under there?
Go ahead,
So-
Mr. DeCree.
Thank you. There'll be one. I think the exact number is somewhere around 1,800 square feet in total. It'll be that end cap that faces, of that building, that faces Irving Park Road
So there
and the
will-
train.
Go ahead, follow us.
So there will be only one business in there?
Correct.
Yeah, follow up.
No. Mayor,
Alderman Roy Wesley, you were next.
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
Mr. Bond, you're saying about this agreement here, but in this agreement, we have the prices here of 4.25 million.
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
That's correct. That's the total estimated TIF benefit. Those would be the benefits that would be paid out of the TIF fund.
So-
Again, it's provided that those benchmarks are achieved. That's the all-in number, if you will.
Go ahead, Alderman Wesley.
So for the people at home, why don't we go through that section 2, because of what we're selling the property for is on here too?
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Right, again, this was to give you the framework of what the whole transaction consists of. The details for the TIF benefits, that will be the third component of that. That would be the TIF agreement. The second component of that would be the land acquisition portion of that would come to you by way of a purchase and sale agreement, similar to the purchase and sale agreements you've seen in the past. But just so that this wasn't in a vacuum where you just have a document that just says they're going to build residential and retail uses, dwellings consistent of a mixture of 2, 3, and 4-story buildings with density limits provided for in our code. This gives you what those other components of the agreement are. This is not the conveyance of the property, and this is not the issuance of the TIF benefits. And
What-
at the appropriate time for a discussion on those would be when we have the purchase and sale agreement for the property would be the time to have that on the property. The TIF benefits then would be when we bring that TIF benefit agreement to the council and have a discussion about what those TIFs, because it's very detailed as to what those benefits are, how they're staged and phased in this development.
Good. Follow up?
In return of that, what you just said, we don't know how much it's gonna cost us for this bond. We don't know the interest. We don't know any of that yet. And I understand what you're saying, that this is just an agreement, but I think the people should know that what we're selling the property for, too. And-
Mr. Bond.
And,
Yeah, the property,
guess
the value of the property is $2.1 million. That's in this agreement. Again, it will be detailed in the purchase and sale agreement. So that's why it's here, so that there's no question as to what, that we're talking about for this entire project. So that's why those numbers are actually incorporated in the redevelopment agreement. So you see that what that consists of. And it identifies the breakdown as to what are going to be the property component of that, and what the TIF benefits are going to be, are set forth in the aggregate, simply so everybody knows this is the total deal, which will be delineated in greater detail when we have those other two agreements.
okay, I have a couple more questions.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead, one more. Then I want to give everybody a chance, and we'll come back to you.
Are we going,
Question to that question you had?
Let Alderman Wesley finish. Go ahead.
to the developer, would you build this project without the TIF money?
Mr. DeCrave?
No.
Second question is, you came at, evidently you came up with 4.25. How did you, is there a breakdown of how you come up with that number?
Mr. DeCrave or Mr. Bond?
Yeah, I mean, that was, the breakdown is, again, delineated, and we originally had incorporated that into the redevelopment agreement, but there's some issues that needed to be worked out with respect to those particulars. Those can certainly be shared. I think the city manager can provide that for you, but those are still being discussed and determined as to what that total amount's going to be.
So-
That's the,
Go ahead.
So this may change.
Mr. Bond?
the redevelopment agreement as to what they're going to build is not going to change unless it comes back to the council for you to change it. The specific dollar amounts as to the TIF benefit will be set forth in the TIF agreement. It's anticipated that's the amount, it's the 4.2 million, but that's, again, those are disbursements. That's not just a chunk of money that's going to be given to the developer. The developer achieves these certain benchmarks in terms of the development progress and the phasing of it. Those are the benefits under the TIF Act that the developer would be eligible to recoup.
Okay.
It's part of its cost. It's reimbursement of some of the development costs, in addition to what the other development costs that the developer himself is putting in over and above, which is substantial.
Okay.
I'll go to Alderman Catalano next. Go ahead.
My question was, is the council going to have some input as the project goes on, as far as looking what kind of design it's going to be, or?
Mr. Craig, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We think that we want to make sure that we are following the lead of council and staff as it relates to this project. It's something that hasn't been done in a long time here. We recognize that, and that's in essence going back to the question about would we do this without TIF. There's a significant amount of risk still, and this helps, the TIF does help offset that risk. But we absolutely welcome comments
And
along the way.
I know you mentioned this number to the council once before. What is the estimated value or construction cost of this project?
So it's going to be somewhere around $30 million.
Approximately 30 million.
Yeah.
Okay. Alderman Messina, go ahead.
Sure. Sometimes I feel like I'm one of those HGTV shows, and you got to show the figures so that people they see the full picture, because sometimes people like to omit some of those details. So I'm sure you guys did a lot of your research, right? And so I had the number of $30 million of investment, right? Our EAV comes back higher than the TIF amount we would give you back for some of that construction cost. I'm sure you did your homework, so this is public knowledge, since we want to tell the public everything. We want to be transparent. The property is worth 2.1. Attorney Bond, what did we pay for the property?
Mr. Bond?
Yeah, if I recall, I believe it was 2.1
Okay.
Property.
for the,
Yes.
For both pieces.
Yes.
Right, that's combined, right? So the city will stand to make money on that property when we sell it, correct?
Mr. Bond?
well, we'll certainly recoup our investment on it. And
Okay.
the reason it was acquired was for this very reason. So
So there is no loss
Go ahead, Alderman
to
Messina.
the residents that,
No, there's, basically the money we spent is the money we're recouping
Yep.
on the sale. The TIF money is gonna come from property that right now generates 0 tax dollars. And once you put up approximately $25 to $30 million project, the taxes on that, that's what the bonds will go against. Is that correct, Mr. Wilson? And that's where the money's gonna come from, this 4.25, providing they perform according to the
not
agreement.
to mention the
Go ahead,
additional.
Alderman Messina.
Sorry, not to mention the additional 154 dwelling units that will come to the community, which means money that'll be spent in the community.
Correct.
It sounds like a great deal to me. Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Woods, go ahead.
Oh, my turn?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I'm coming.
I was just going to make a general comment that this agreement is just really the broad brushstrokes of the agreement. It's kind of the outer markers of what the agreement is, and we're still fine tuning that, both from a facade architecture standpoint and fine tuning the math and the payments and the milestones of how you get to those things. So as we might like to debate every part of this issue, because it's pretty exciting, you know, it's a great development, as pointed out, that hasn't happened in many years, and a lot of positive things coming. We've worked on this as a community for many years, starting, I mean, I don't know how long ago we purchased the 7-Eleven, but that predates me.
Even me.
So finally, we amassed enough property to put it together to be in a position to even get this project going. So that's all I wanted to say, so before we get too carried away.
Okay. Alderman Jacob, you were next. Go ahead.
I just want to thank you guys for first of all, you know, bringing this project forward to us. This is a great project. This, you know, for the residents, I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar company. It's not just a $50 million developer. I mean, we're talking multi-billion-dollar company here that's going to build in town. We're going to have added tax revenue, sales tax, bring extra residents into town, spending money in town. The one question I had, Brad, was, do we know what the estimated property tax would be? I mean, is there any idea on that?
Mr. Wilson, do you have that, or, I mean, we can get that. I know you mentioned some basic numbers a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a 10, yeah. And I think Mr. Cruyff has, and we have the same documents, I just didn't bring that one up with me here. So,
SB Freeman, is that
Yeah.
10?
Give us 1 second.
Just divided by 22.
Yeah.
10-4.
Mr. Mayor. Upwards.
Go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, all in, based on the SB Friedman estimate, about, give or take, some various market factors, about $473,000.
Right.
Okay.
Per
Thank-
year. Go ahead, Alderman Jacob. Follow
That
up.
was it. Thank you very much.
Alderman Sorrentino, you had a question?
Yes, I've learned now not to let Alderman Jacob see my notes, because then he steals my thunder. In all seriousness, I'm one for the cup is always half full or more. I'm not one for negativity. And I think what we're all witnessing here is the rebirth of Wooddale. You know, 1928, they started up this little community. And I just want to compliment the stellar collaboration between all of the staff and all of the development company, because this truly will be the first of many children that the new Wooddale will have. And I want to make sure all the residents saw that and heard that, because you are we're all in a perfect place right now. So I thank you, I compliment you, and keep up the good work. That's it.
Thank you. Alderman Wesley, you had another question? Go ahead.
Yeah. Mr. Wilson, that slide that you showed before is 7.8 million?
The
The
EAB?
Yes, that's the life of the TIF of 20 years, correct?
Go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
23 technically.
23 years. So this estimate is, so, the 4 point, that's okay, we're not gonna go there. These are gonna be apartments, correct?
Go ahead, Mr. Craig.
Yes, sir.
What's the prices of these apartments roughly?
We're still working
Keith,
in
Go ahead.
in terms of rents. We're still working through those final details, but we estimate that, right now, our estimate is about $1.41 a square foot.
These are
And that's a little different from our initial discussion because we recognize that going back to, I think, Alderman Catalano's comment regarding the financial engine that this will be. We've designed these apartments specifically to get people out and spending money. One of the things that we do is we don't put in a gym in there. We want to reach out to the folks that own gyms in town and get people out doing things. We don't want to put in, a coffee bar. We want people to get out and go to a coffee shop. But one of the things we missed in our initial discussion, or didn't contemplate at that point, and some of our third-party management company consultants pointed out to us, is we didn't have any studios. So we felt like there was enough of a market here. They felt there was enough of a market. And these are management companies that they're in and around this area. They're one of the groups that built the Itasca deal. So they know what they're doing. They know what's going on in the marketplace. And that's why our rents went from, I think it was $1.39 to $1.41. Went up just a little bit because those smaller units, it's the math. It's the math in it.
These are,
Go ahead, yeah, follow?
these are short-term
What do you mean, short-term?
rentals?
The rentals.
Yeah, I mean,
They're-
is it,
Go ahead,
is it a
Mr.
month?
They're,
Is it
no, they're
3
rentals.
months?
It'd be a 12-month lease.
Okay.
We would offer a 6-month at a premium potentially. These are rentals though. They're definitely rentals. We anticipate there being a healthy amount of seniors that come here and people, trying to get out of mom and dad's basement, and they'll probably stay a while. That's what our management company's data is suggesting.
So,
Go ahead, follow?
could you, I seen all the ones that you built there, the houses, and where's one that you have a rental?
So our
Go ahead.
rental, sorry,
okay.
our rental stock is not depicted in there. The family had built rental before I came along, and so I don't have a picture of a rental stock, but most of it is condominium, multifamily condominium for sale.
Okay. I
Okay.
thi- I like the idea. I think the TIF money is too high. I commend you for doing this. I don't like on how it went down because I would like to ask staff why, or we didn't even put this property on the market at all. And are we doing that for other properties? You don't have to answer that.
No,
if you
they're
don't
not
want.
going to answer that right now.
Okay,
They'll talk to you.
okay.
All right, we have, Alderman Woods, you had your hand up again? Okay.
I was just going to comment on the rental, I think the question is, do you really think that we're going to rent the apartments here and what that rent would be, which is a very complex thing, but if you look at, you mentioned Itasca, if you look at Itasca, I think they're like 70% rented out. My son actually went and looked at one of those units, it's $2,400 a month for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit.
Right.
And they're almost flying off the shelf. I mean, that's probably a little aggressive, but they're going pretty good, and they have a pool and a couple of amenities. So I think that you're right, that you're going to hit a slightly different segment. You're closer proximity to the train station and a different demographic. So I don't think we'll have any issues.
Okay. Alderman Jacob, go ahead. And-
I just wanted to add to what Alderman Woods had said. I mean, we have, Elmhurst built the buildings over there, they're rented. I mean, they're filling up. I know in the city, one of my friends lives in the city, it was all condos. They're building 4,000 rental units where he lives in that area. So a lot of people are starting to rent more than they're actually purchasing homes. I mean, it seems to be the new trend coming out there.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Let's take a roll call.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes?
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
No.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
And that passes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
That's
you.
the, oh, whoa, hang on a second, I got one magic that I was just before. You know, you guys sneak these things in on me.
Yeah.
Number one.
No, I was gonna put that under other business.
No, everything goes under building and
It
zoning.
goes under other business. I'm sorry, Alderman Woods.
You're not sorry.
No.
All right,
That concludes
that
your
concludes
report.
my report.
Thank you. Public Health and Safety, Alderman Sorrentino.
No report, Mayor.
Public Works, Alderman Catalano.
No report, Mayor.
Finance and Administration, Alderman Messina.
Yep, one report, Mayor. An ordinance amending the City of Wooddale master fee schedule. That is my motion.
Good. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Questions? Alderman Jacob.
Just a couple questions on this one. Where we have the number of licenses, I know it's just a typo, but if we're gonna do something, I wanna make sure it gets done right. It says number of available licenses. That says like $9, it should be just 9. So I mean, it's just a typo. And then up above there on page, well, I'm not sure what page it is, but it talks about 91 is the page number I show. It talks about contractors' fees. So electrical, it says HVAC contractor $50, electrical $25, and then plumbing contractor $0. So I was just kind of wondering why the plumbing contractor pays $0 and we have, you know, the electrical and the HVAC pay something.
Go ahead, Mr. Cage.
Thank you, Matt. I believe the reason for that is plumbers are licensed through the state, so they have their own registration that's separate, a separate entity from the city. I believe those fees are due to reflect that.
If I recall, we had the fee, we had to take it out because of state statutes.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we have, any other questions? Roll call.
Alderman Catalano? Yes. Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Nope.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
And that passes.
That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Next, under other business, we're gonna go back to item number 1. Need a motion
I'll make the motion.
Second.
for, item number 1 of the consent agenda was taken off. An ordinance amending and clarifying regulations concerning temporary signs, definitions, platted building and setback lines, established setbacks, driveway approach construction, requirements within the sign code and unified development ordinances provided in chapters 13 and 17 of the City of Wooddale Municipal Code. We had Alderman Woods and Alderman Jacob. Second. Questions on this one? We have a motion, we have a second. Let's go with the roll call.
Who made a motion?
Art made the motion,
Art-
Peter second.
and who?
Peter.
That's what I have. Okay, Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
No.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
And that passes. Okay. Under airport noise, Alderman Jacob.
No report, Mayor.
Under Stormwater Commission, Alderman Eugene Wesley.
No report, Mayor, it's canceled.
Okay, thank you. Approval list of bills. Oh, yeah, no, go ahead, you had one item, yes, under,
So my question is, could we remove that orange fence over at that corner? That looks terrible, that snow fence.
the silt fence. Mr. Murmas?
We're gonna leave that one up for now, and then when the project is nearing completion over there with the landscaping all finished, then we'll remove it.
Could we put a new
Go ahead.
fence up? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Could we put a new piece of fence up there? It looks like,
If it's in disrepair, we'll put a fresh,
disrepair.
we'll put a fresh
It is
one up.
falling. Honestly, it looked better without the fence before because that fence is kind of falling. I have to be honest.
The fence is better, though.
plastic
Fence.
fence.
Right, I understand, I know it's
It's what
not,
it is.
I know what it is, I got it.
Construction site.
I got it.
Matt's going to put a prairie-style plastic fence up there. Right?
Yeah, okay.
Nice.
All
And
right,
he's gonna come in on the weekend and
Ish.
all right.
Bollard.
Approve, next item, approve listed bills for August 16th. Alderman Messina.
Yes, one report. It was a slow week. List of bills dated August 16th, 2018. A motion to approve that list of bills in the amount of $699,873.66.
second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
And a question.
Any questions?
Yep.
Alderman Roy Wesley, go ahead.
Mr. Wilson, Itasca Bank, $6,357.20 is the interest for the loan that we have at Itasca Bank. Do you have the running total on that now?
Go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
I'm sorry.
What
Page
page?
176.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Wesley, indeed, I do have the running total. This is the third interest installment on the line of credit, including this payment tonight. The total interest paid on the line of credit is $17,482.30.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Alderman Eugene Wesley.
I only have two.
Go ahead.
The HR Green, on page 176, the Wooddale clock tower, is that for overseeing $28,000?
Mr. York is shaking his head. Go ahead, Mr.
And-
York.
And,
Yes, that is correct.
okay, so
Go ahead, follow up.
how much more do we have on that?
I'd have to go back and look, I can get that for you.
So here's my question I asked. So when is are they running out hours to oversee this project? And are we going to have an amendment change for HR Green knowing that they are not completed of overseeing this project? Are they running out of hours?
Mr. York.
I'd have
He's
to
gonna
go
have
back
to
and
check,
look.
okay.
Yes, I do not have that
You'll-
information.
All right, thank you.
All right,
We'll
and
check
then-
that for us. Go ahead.
And the other one is, on page 174, Copenhagen, $239,705.10. And
Go ahead. What's your
how
question?
many more payments are on that one?
Mr. York.
We do not know that for sure. The project is close to completion, so I'm gonna guess probably at least one, maybe two partials and then a final.
And we
Go ahead.
did, I'm sorry,
No, no problem.
and we did start deducting off their checks, right?
Mr. York.
That is incorrect. Liquidated damages have not started until August 9th. This last check was due, worked through August 2nd. So we are tallying liquidated damages, but we have not yet held back funds.
Okay. And then I have
Go
one
ahead.
more. 156 School Street, Christopher Burke Engineering for $825.18. What was going on in School Street that they engineer?
Go ahead.
There is for want of a better description, neighbor dispute on School Street that has gone back many years. The reason that we sent a third-party engineering firm out there is that I've had various concerns made to me by some of the residents regarding prior city staff. So I wanted to get a third party out there as drainage concern. That's why we sent Christopher Burke. Obviously, you know, with the amount that bill or that invoice is for, it's a major concern, and that's why they were sent out there.
Okay.
Go ahead. Follow?
No, that's it.
All right, we have a motion, a second, roll call.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley?
My answer is no.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
And that passes.
that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you. No executive session, no items to be referred. Need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, we're adjourned.